Francis married Iris, and they had grand plans that were never meant to come true. An unknown virus turned people into monsters. The couple, along with their sons Joshua and Lucas, decided to hide in a large mansion where Francis's parents used to live. Francis went to inspect the house and quickly found a gun, but he had to kill his own mother, who had already turned. The family spent all their free time setting up their new home. They were fortunate to have a water pump on the property. The children were afraid to drink the water, but Francis tasted it and assured them it was fine. A little later, he and Joshua inspected the barn. They found not only useful tools but also live chickens. Their surprise grew when they discovered a generator in the basement. Iris hoped it still worked, but when they tried to start it, nothing happened. Over dinner, the family discussed their next steps. Francis was convinced their house was the best place to survive. They had clean water and they would figure out the food situation. It was better than heading north, but Iris thought differently. What if everything was fine up north? The last time they watched TV, the authorities urged everyone to move north. Joshua's friend had written to him that her family was also heading to the mountains. Maybe there were still friends there. Francis tried to calm them down, saying that the people they knew were gone, and their survival was the only thing that mattered now. Late at night, Joshua tried to contact Alice but couldn't. He enjoyed watching old videos until his phone battery died. The next day, Iris again insisted they needed to move on. Francis decided to take a risk and listen to his wife. Their goal became the mountain Alice had mentioned. In the car, Joshua brought up Uncle Diego, who had also advised Iris to go to the mountains. This angered Francis, as he didn't know they had been in contact. The road was blocked. Iris began clearing the debris but didn't notice an infected soldier. Fortunately, Francis had a gun and saved her. However, more zombies soon appeared, and they had to return home. 2 weeks later, Francis returned to the bridge. He managed to start a car but came back home without it, claiming it had broken down. He didn't want to risk leaving again. With the fuel they had collected, the generator started working. They now had air conditioning and music to dance to, making it feel as if nothing had changed. One night, the brothers looked through the family album, wondering why their parents had decided to reconcile when the world was falling apart. The next day, Francis apologized to Iris for everything he had done over the past year. He said all the people he owed money to were now dead, as if it was a chance to start over. While checking on the chickens, Francis noticed a black dog that bit him. Iris, being a nurse, feared it might have been rabid. She suggested going to the hospital for medicine. Meanwhile, Joshua managed to catch a signal on the radio. A man mentioned Camp Delta. However, the batteries died, and Joshua couldn't prove he had spoken to someone. Iris knew of another road that might not be blocked. Francis was doubtful. He believed the dog bite was the least of their worries. Better to stay cautious and alive. Joshua, however, was determined to find Alice. He was confident he could handle the monsters too. Francis decided to teach Joshua how to shoot. However, during the lesson, they used up a lot of ammunition and attracted the attention of a whole horde of monsters. The family managed to hide inside the house, but now they were trapped. Suddenly, someone began honking a car horn, distracting the zombies. The person turned out to be Francis's brother, Diego. His family had already perished, and now he was heading north hoping to visit their parents. It was the last place he expected to see his brother. Diego called these lands dead and warned that their supplies were not endless. He knew a safe route north where they could find refuge. However, the tense relationship between the brothers made Francis reject his offer. Before leaving, Diego left a map but forgot some of his belongings. Iris noticed that he said, "I'm too late. Diego is no longer alive." Afterward, the family began barricading the house. A weakened zombie crawled into their basement. Iris calmed Lucas, saying the monsters would soon die off on their own, and they would be able to return to a normal life. Francis was in despair. The roof of their house was leaking. He killed one of the monsters and told Iris that a whole horde had been chasing him. The area was swarming with zombies, and they could no longer leave the house. During dinner, Francis announced that they needed new children. Iris disagreed, emphasizing that such a life had no meaning. She confessed that she had wanted to leave him even before the epidemic. The children overheard this and sided with Francis. Francis took out the map showing the safe zone and burned it. The next day, while collecting sugarcane, he didn't see a single monster. To prevent anyone from leaving, he barricaded the door. Their argument was interrupted by a knock at the door. On the other side was a man named Corcuera, a soldier who asked for some water. Joshua opened the door, and Corcuera assured them he hadn't been bitten, only injured. He explained that his squad from Camp Delta had gone to the city for supplies, but on their way back, they were attacked. Only he survived. Francis was pleased to be proven right. There were still many zombies, but Corcuera clarified that it depended on the direction. From Camp Delta to their house, there were hardly any zombies. He would have died if not for a man who had told him to come here. Iris realized that Diego was alive. Joshua stopped trusting Francis. Moreover, he found out that Francis wasn't his biological father. In the morning, Francis completely lost his sanity. He killed the soldier and locked Iris and Lucas in the basement. An hour later, Francis returned with a pot of stew. Everyone realized what kind of meat it was and refused to eat. In a rage, Francis began throwing things around. Iris noticed a knife and tried to take it quietly. However, Francis heard the metallic sound, accused her of betrayal, and said she had always been like that. Late at night, Iris and Lucas managed to escape from the basement, but outside they were ambushed by an infected Diego. They managed to retreat back into the house, and though they killed Diego, he managed to bite Lucas. Without hesitation, Iris amputated her son's arm. She begged Francis to go to the hospital for medicine to save Lucas. Overcoming his fear, Francis ran to the bridge, where he encountered Joshua. Francis was acting like a zombie, and Joshua, thinking his father had already turned, shot him. Realizing what he had done, Joshua asked Francis for forgiveness and told him he had always considered him his real father. With his last breath, Francis asked Joshua to take the van and save the family. The film ends with a scene where Iris is blinded by the headlights of a car.